Good morning, class. We are looking at practice test 1, module 1, chapter 2, equations and inequalities. Here's the second part. So let's look at the synopsis of how to solve quadratic equations, starting with the square root property. If x squared equals a, where a is a real number, then x is plus minus square root of a. X squared equals 49. As an example, x is plus minus square root of 49, which makes it plus minus 7. Solving quadratic equations, the standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. And we want to do it by completing this square. A perfect square trinomial is a trinomial that can be expressed as the square of a binomial. Example, x squared minus 10x plus 25 means x minus 5 times x minus 5, or x minus 5 quantity squared. Note that in every perfect square trinomial, the constant term is the square of 1/2 the coefficient of the x term, or b over 2a squared. If you look at this number 25, how do we arrive at it? Here's the b, negative 10, divided by 2, because remember a is 1, you get negative 5, and square it, you get this number. That's how completing the square happens. Therefore, if we want to solve this by the method of completing the square, first move the constant and then divide by a, make it x squared plus bx equals c. Add b over 2 quantity squared to both sides and write it as x plus b over 2 quantity squared, c plus b over 2 quantity squared, and simplify, solve by the square root property. So that's by completing this square. And when you work on that, it gives you the formula known as the quadratic formula, where x is minus b plus minus a squared of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And what's underneath the radical plays a very important role. It's called the discriminant. When b squared minus 4ac is positive, you have two distinct real solutions. The solutions will be rational if the discriminant is a perfect square and irrational otherwise. B squared minus 4ac is 0. We have one real solution, a rational solution, which repeats in essence. B squared minus 4ac is negative. We have no real solutions, or two complex solutions, a plus bi. If b squared minus 4ac is a perfect square number, then ax squared plus bx plus c can be factored. You don't need to go through the process. You can simply factor and solve. Let's solve by completing this square. Right here, x squared plus 6x plus 7 equal to 0. The very first step to move the 7. The next one here is b. Divided by 2, you get 3. Squared, you get 9. So b is number 6. Divided by 2 is 3. Squared is 9. Add 9 to both sides. Now, it's important to know how to write the left side. The left side is the variable. In this case, the variable is x. And b over 2, including the sign. So in this case, plus 3. If it's negative, it's negative 3. And the right side, simply add up two numbers. Using the square root property or principle, x plus 3 becomes plus minus the square root of 2. Move the 3 or subtract it, and that's the final answer. Notice there are two answers here. Minus 3 minus square root of 2 and minus 3 plus square root of 2, and this is an exact answer. If by any chance they ask you for an approximation, that means, so first let me write the two answers. I want to make sure everybody can see that there are two answers. One of them is negative 3 minus square root of 2. The other one is minus 3 plus square root of 2, okay? That means that. And this is an exact answer. If anybody asks for approximation, of course, use a calculator. Roughly square root of 2 is 1.41 subtracted from -3, added to -3, two different answers. What about here? In short, two things should happen. Constant should move, A should become 1. So number 1, you are going to move the -4. -4 moves, becomes +4. The next step is to get rid of 2. How do we do that? Divide everything by A, namely 2. This is what you get. Now this is B. We are going to divide it by 2. When you divide a fraction by 2, or when you divide a fraction by a whole number, just multiply it by the denominator. So it becomes -7. 2 times 2 is 4, -7 4. Square it, 49/16. So B, -7 halves, B over 2, -7/4, square it, 49/16. Add this number to both sides. Again, I want to talk about the left side. You write the variable. In this case, the variable is z, and b over 2. B over 2 is -7/4. So z -7/4 quantity squared. The right side, you're adding two numbers. 2 times 16 plus 49/16. 32 and 49 is 81. You take a root from both sides. So this is 9/4. You move the -7/4, you make it positive on the other side, and now you write the answer as 7 plus 9/4, 7 minus 9/4. This is 16/404. This is -2/4 or -1/2. So that's completing this. Let's solve by the quadratic formula, and we have the formula here: ax squared plus bx plus c is 0, x is minus b plus minus a squared of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So the very first thing we do, we put it in standard form. Because 5 is on the right, we move it to the left to make sure it's in standard form. Then we write a, b, c. A is 2, b is 4, c is -5. Again, reminding you have the practice test, you have the key, and now we are going over the solution with details. We put it into the formula. Minus b minus 4 plus minus the square root of b squared, 4 squared, minus 4ac, 4 times 2 times -5. And this is -4, this is 4. What is this? 16 Negative times negative is positive. 4 times 5 times 2. 4D, they add up to 56. Now notice, first and foremost, you can't drop these two. If you want to take a common factor from the numerator and drop, you can, but you can't drop these two. 56 is the product of 4 and 14. 4 comes out as a 2. And in the numerator, I can take the common factor of 2 times negative 2 plus minus the square root of 14. This goes away. This changes to 2. And that's the final answer. It is in standard form. A is 7, B is 4, C is 3. Put it into this equation, minus 4 plus minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times the A, which is 7, times C, which is 3, over 2 times A, which is 7. And we're going to simplify. We have 16 minus 84. The denominator is 14. 16 minus 84 gives us negative 68. Now, negative 68, if you look at the number, is the product of 4 and 17. Negative sign under the radical will be replaced by the I outside, where I is square root of negative 1. 4 comes out as 2. Again, we see a common factor of 2. We factor it out. And it's very important for everybody to notice that this I is outside the radical. That's why sometimes they rather write it as I square root of 17 to make sure there is no confusion. If the I you put it inside is completely wrong. Two plus 4 over x minus 1 over x squared equals 0. We notice if we multiply by LCD, which is x squared, we can bring everything up and get rid of the fractions. That's the methodology to deal with fractions. Needless to say, we have to add x can't be 0. Why is that? This one says x can't be 0, and this says the same thing. So it's important to write this, everybody. So what do we get? 2x squared, 4x minus 1 equals 0. So you have a quadratic equation with a being 2, b being 4, and c is negative 1. Plug in. Minus b minus 4 plus minus b squared, 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative. -16, negative times negative, positive, plus 8. So we get 24 under the radical, and the denominator is 4. And again, 24 is the product of 4 and 6, and 4 comes out as 2. We can factor the 2 out from the numerator. On purpose, I picked questions that almost all of them have this factor. Not all the questions will, but I did that because it's been a problem in the past that students have made a mistake. So what I want you to notice, again, if you look at this, there are sometimes students are under assumption they can cancel those two and put -1. That's not true. What you can do is to write this as -2/2 plus minus square root of 6/2, which results in this, okay? So you want to be careful with that. Solve, and we are looking at absolute value equalities. So let's look at the process. Anytime you solve absolute value, either equality or inequality, your first step is the same thing. Isolate the absolute value. So that the equation is in the form of absolute value of ax plus b equals, if it's an equality less than or greater than, isolate that. If c is less than 0, the equation has no solution because absolute value is distance from 0. Worst case scenario can be 0, not negative. If c is positive, proceed to steps 2 and 3. So c is positive. Separate the absolute value into two equations, ax plus b equals c, ax plus b equals -c, solve and check. So in this case, because the right side is positive and because it's already isolated, you really right away move to step 2. 4x minus 7 is 5, 4x 7 is minus 5. So you can put them together. This means two equations, everybody. So you can do it in one shot. 4x minus 7 is equal to plus minus 5. You move the -7, becomes positive on the right side, and divide by 4. So that gives you 7 plus 5 divided by 4, 7 minus 5 divided by 4. This is 12/4, which is 3. This is 2/4, which is 1/2. All right, we are going to move on, everybody, to the next question. Notice the difference. In this case, we have to isolate the absolute value, but number one is sitting next to it, and we must remove that. How? Move that to the other side. So we are going to go -1 here. The absolute value of 2x minus 5 is equal to 2. And this is completely isolated, everybody. And just like before, let's cut it into two equations. 2x minus 5 equals plus minus 2. Move the -5, which means add it to the right side. Divide by 2. And so we get 5 plus 2 over 2, 5 minus 2 over 2. So the answers are 7 halves and 3 halves. So it's very straightforward, everybody. Solve each inequality, graph the solution set, and write the solution set in interval notation. If the absolute value of x is less than a and a is positive, then x is sandwiched between negative a and a. By the way, if a is negative, there is no solution. So if a is negative, there is no solution. Why is that? Because absolute value can't be negative. It can only be 0 in the worst case scenario. All right. Sandwich between negative and positive, 7. Get rid of 3. That means subtract 3 from all 3 sides. Left becomes -10, right becomes 4. In the middle, you have only 2x. Divide everything by 2. You get -5 less than x less than 2. This is the solution in an inequality format, everybody. This is the solution in an inequality format. Interval notation, we put from -5 to 2 in parentheses because that means the endpoints are not included. If we had the equality here, 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 then we would use brackets, meaning the endpoints are included. On a number line from negative to positive infinity, you locate -5, you locate 2, and anywhere in between those two is the answer. Now, the endpoints, you have two choices. You can put parentheses just like that, or you may do the following. You can put a hollow point and cover everything in between. That's another way of graphing it on a number line. The endpoints are holes. One hole on the left, one hole on the right. All right. What about the absolute value of 5x plus 7 plus 10 less than or equal to 4? The same way, you have to isolate this. To do that, we are moving 10, everybody. Meaning subtracting it from 4, meaning resulting in -6 on the right. And if A is negative, because this is negative, what we are saying is absolute value of, it doesn't matter what, is less than or equal to negative, not any negative number. It doesn't have to be -6, -1, -1/2, -10,000. The answer is no solutions. No solutions, because A is less than 0. We are going to move on, everybody. All right. We're going to continue with that and solve the inequality. In this case, 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 1 plus 3 is greater than or equal to 13. If the absolute value of x is larger than a, and a is positive, then x less than minus a, or x is larger than a. So that's the case when we are dealing with an inequality which is larger than. So first thing first, isolation means get rid of this number. You get 10. Next, divide by 2. So we are trying to isolate. And now we are ready to follow this methodology. It's completely isolated. Therefore, 3x minus 1 less than or equal to minus 5 or larger than or equal to positive 5. So from here, we go here. We are going to solve them simultaneously. We are going to add 1 to both sides of each inequality. The first one becomes 3x less than or equal to negative 4, or the second one becomes 3x larger than or equal to 6. We're going to divide both sides by number 3. In both cases, we get x. The first one, x is less than or equal to negative 4/3. In the second case, or x is larger than or equal to 2. So what you're looking at is the inequality solution. Inequality. You want to go to interval notation. This piece, negative infinity to negative 4/3. This piece, 2 to infinity, you put them together with an or statement, which is a union of events. Because of the equality, negative 4/3 takes a bracket, so does 2 because the endpoints are included, and we write the interval notation is from negative infinity to negative 4/3 bracket, union, open bracket to infinity, close with the parentheses. Infinity and negative infinity are concepts. They always take parentheses, regardless. As far as the graph is concerned, you locate 2 bracket to the right. You locate negative 4/3 is like negative 1 and 1/3 bracket to the left, or you can put a solid point, solid dot at 2 and to the right, solid point at negative 4/3 to the left. That means the same. Okay, everybody? The absolute value of 5x plus 7 plus 10 is larger than or equal to 4. The first step is to isolate. And so we are going to do so. Subtract 10 from both sides. And the right side becomes negative 6. Now, in the case of an inequality, when you have less than and you have a negative number, there is no solution. In the case of an inequality and you have greater than and a negative number, it's all real numbers from negative to positive infinity. And here's the reason. Absolute value, worst case scenario is 0, and 0 is larger than any negative number. So if this number is negative, and it doesn't matter what number, as long as it's negative 0.5, negative 1, negative 6, or negative 10,000, makes no difference. And you have an absolute value, and it doesn't matter what's in that absolute value. It will always have the solution all real numbers or negative to positive infinity. Solve and check the square root of 2x plus 7 plus 7 equals x. And the way root equations, okay, square root, cube root, you name it, work, they work pretty much like absolute value equations. You isolate them. So this must be isolated. To do that, you move the 7 and subtract it from the right side, x minus 7. The reason we do that, because the left side, we can take it out by squaring it. Why squaring it? The index is 2, is the square root. So square this one to take it out. So you square both sides. So the left side comes out. What happens to the right side? Recall a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. If I have a negative sign here, I have a negative sign here, which means if I want to square the right side, x squared, and then the product of these 2 times 2 minus 14x, and then plus 49. As I mentioned, the left side just comes out. Now, to solve this, we put it in standard form, meaning we bring everything to the same side. So we are going to move the 2x to the right and 1 to the right. So it becomes minus 2x minus 1. These two combine, and we get x squared minus 16x plus 48. We want two numbers. The product is 48. The sum is negative 16. The answers are negative 4 and negative 12. So there are two answers, everybody. Which makes x equals 4, x equals 12. There are two answers, but we have to check, because as we go through the process here and square here, we may introduce a solution that doesn't work with the original equation. So we are going to look at the original equation, plug in 4, plug in 12, and see what happens. So we go with 4. We're going to put 2 times 4 plus 1 under the radical plus 7, and we're going to ask, is this equal to 4? Because we don't know. And what happens is that 2 and 4, 2 times 4, 8 plus 1 is 9, comes out as 3. So this becomes 3. With 7 becomes 10. Is 10 equal to 4? Obviously, no. Therefore, x equals 4 doesn't work with the original equation. So as far as the terminology, sometimes they call it extraneous solutions, okay? In case you see this terminology, extraneous solution. Let me. Because it's an extra solution that it worked out at the end, but not with the original equation. It's out. Let's check number 12. So 2 times 12 plus 1 under the radical plus 7 is equal to x, which is 12. 2 times 12, 24, plus 1, 25. So this is 25. Comes out as 5. Plus 7 is 12. Yes, it works. This is the solution. You must check, especially when you raise it to a power which is an even power. If it's even power many times, some of the solutions will fail to work, okay? X plus 2 squared equals x minus 1 times x minus 6. Well, to solve this, you have to raise this left-hand side to the power of 2 and work it out. This is x squared, then 2 times x times 2, 4x, then plus 4. X times x is x squared. You add negative 1 and negative 6, you get minus 7x, and this is plus 6. I'm assuming everybody remembers the basic math, how we do the foiling. We want to bring everything to the same side. We notice we have x squared on both sides. We don't have to move it, just drop it. This one, if you move it here, you get plus 7x, and this one, you get minus 4. This is 11x. This is 2 divide by 11, and that's the final answer, and you can check. For x plus 1 to the power of 5/3 is 32. We want to solve for x. Whenever we have an exponent to solve, we want to undo it in essence. And to undo that, you can raise it to a power that makes it 1. So that means, as you know, the reciprocal of 5/3 is 3/5. So if you multiply 5/3 by 3/5, you get 1. So if you raise both sides to the power of 3/5, what happens is that by the power rule, this is 1. And so the left side is 4x plus 1. What is the right side? Remember, this is the index, the 5th root of 32 cubed, and the 5th root of 32 is 2. 2 cubed is 8. We get 7. And x becomes 7/4. To solve this, you could square this, multiply it by 2, add them up, simplify. and solve it. However, you notice this is 3x minus 4, this is 3x minus 4 squared, so the best course of action is by substitution. So sometimes they mention by substitution, sometimes they don't. How do you substitute? You let something other than x represent 3x minus 4. Now you have 2y squared plus y minus 1 equals 0. And that is an easy factoring because 2 is a prime number. So if I wanted to factor this, I would have to write 1y or simply y and 2y. And because this is -1, I have no choice but to put 1 and -1. Which one goes here? Which one goes here? It's by trial and error. And by that, I mean, look at this one. This is 2y. Look at this one. This is minus y. They must add up to y, and they do. And so that's how you factor. So y is either -1 or 1/2. However, we are not done with x, so we write 3x minus 4 equals those. So this one, 3x equals 3, x equals 1. This one, 3x equals, if I move the 4, I get 4 plus 1/2, which is 9/2. When I divide by 2, I get 3/2. How do we solve this one in the same manner if you replace this with any variable except x, y, z, m? So what you're looking at, everybody, is m squared equals 2m plus 3. You bring them to the same side. All right. Now it's a simple case of a factoring. You want two numbers. The product is -3. And the sum is -2. The two numbers are -3 and +1. So m is either +3 or -1. But what is x? Please understand, if I raise this to the third power, I get x. So x is m cubed. So x is 3 cubed, 27, -1 cubed, -1. So it's pretty straightforward. And as always, you can check by going to the original equation. You can always check it. R to the power of 4 minus 8, R squared minus equals minus 15. Let's move this. Now, you can do by substitution and letting, let's say, R squared be something, X, Y, Z, M. Or you may recognize that R to the power of 4 is R squared times R squared. So you want two numbers. The product must be 15. The sum must be negative 8. And if you write them as R squared, it works out the two numbers are negative 3 and negative 5. If you want to go this route, everybody, what happens, this becomes x squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0, which can be factored into x minus 3, x minus 5 equals 0. So you can go from here to here, or just directly from here to here. I think either way is just as easy. And so R squared is either 3 or 5. So R is plus minus square root of 3, or is plus minus square root of 5. Therefore, there are 4 answers. Now, there are two methods to solve this. First, by the substitution, you can choose b to the power of minus 1, be anything except b. Just be careful with the choice of variables. And if b to the power of negative 1 is x, b to the power of negative 2 is x squared. So what we do, again, it's easy by the trial and error. 6 is 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. Positive 1, you have no choice but to make it both positive 1 or both negative 1, because this is negative, obviously becomes negative 1. So with the trial and error, this works. Notice this is minus 2x. This is minus 3x. They add up to minus 5x. So 2x is 1. That means x is 1/2. 3x is 1. That means x equals 1/3. So there are two answers for x, but that's not what we want. We want b. And it's important to understand right here, b to the power of negative 1, that means 1 over b is x. That means x and b, or which means b is 1 over x, which means the two are reciprocal of each other. So if x is 1/2, b must be 2 over 1. If x is 1/3, b must be 3 over 1. So the answers are 2 and 3. Now, the second method, and I'm not going to go over that, I highly recommend you try it on your own. Because this is b to the power of negative 2, multiply both sides by b squared. So I hope you see that. I'll give you just one step. See what color do we want to choose here. So if I multiply this one by b squared, I hope you see that you get 6 minus 5b plus b squared equals 0. Put it in descending order and solve it. That's another way, and it's just as easy. A fitness club charges $20 as a monthly access fee and $2 per day of use. Express the monthly cost C in terms of daily usage. Well, you have to introduce a variable. You let something, for example, X, represent the number of days. So they charge us $2 per day. So if we use 10 days, $20, 5 days, $10, X days, 2 times X. So 2 times X plus a fixed cost of $20. C of X is 2X plus 20. In essence, you're looking at Y equals MX plus B. This is the slope, a variable charge, and this is the fixed charge. What will the monthly cost be if the club is used 15 days this month? So replace the X with 2. Two times 15, 30 plus 20 is 50. If the length of a rectangular room is twice its width and its perimeter is 90 meters, find the dimension of the room. So here's the rectangular shape. Here's the width, and here's the length, 2 times the width. The perimeter, as you know, has the formula 2L plus 2W. So L is 2 times the width, perimeter is 2L plus 2W, and it's given as 90. And another way of writing it, by the way, the perimeter is 2 times L plus W, either ways. And so to solve this, we are going to replace the L with 2W. So 2 times that gives us 4W. 4 and 2, 6W. If we divide by 6, W becomes 15, and the length is 2 times that, 30, and you always use the proper units. The width must be 15 meters, the length must be 30 meters, and you must check. Here's the easy check. What is 15 plus 30? 45 times 2 is 90, which is the perimeter, and that proves we've come up with the correct answer, everybody.